Welcome back. Now, who will come out on top in the 2021 municipal elections? Today is the first day of the special voting for those who are unable to make it to the voting stations on Monday. Many will also be heading to the polls on Monday, the 1st of November. For some analysis on the elections and what we can expect, political analyst Mapaseka Muroa is with me here in studio. Mapaseka, thank you very much for your time. Now, of course, we know that this election period is strange, not only because it's at the end of the year, that it's on a Monday, but because political parties really had a short amount of time to campaign. Would you say they've done enough?
Look, I would say that they've done enough within that specific time and with what they had to convince the undecided voter. And I'll say the undecided voter, particularly because we've seen that majority of registered voters that actually show up to vote already know who they want to vote for. And we see this with the voting patterns, particularly outside of the big metros. You look at the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, those are the strongholds of the African National Congress. So it's highly likely that they will retain the majority in those municipalities. So I would say that, you know, judging by their manifestos, if we take a deep dive into that, judging by, you know, the commercials that they've come up with, which have been interesting, they've done, you know, some extensive work, and also the work that they've done in the past 5 years, particularly for the top 3 political parties. We can judge them on their track record, even as opposition political parties, the motions that they've put forth, the kind of governance that, you know, a party that's a major opposition like the Democratic Alliance has done. So we've got something to work with. Voters, registered voters, have something to work with.
And looking at the metros that you've just spoken about, I mean, Gauteng metros are highly contested. So is Nelson Mandela Bay.
Yes.
And that's why we saw, for instance, the president, I think, was in the city of Tshwane more than twice to campaign and assist them there. Do you think the ANC has done enough to get the people to give them outright majority again in the city of Tshwane?
And also remember that ending their rallies, they're having their final rallies, particularly in Johannesburg. Look, I think if you look at the African National Congress manifesto to start with, it's an apology sort of to the people. They start with, this is what we've done, and they go beyond the scope of local government. You know, they tell us about what they've done also nationally, about building 4 million houses within a period of 27 years. But to speak to, you know, the own goals that they've committed, particularly in the local governments, you know, the municipalities that are in dire financial strain, the lack of just pure functionality, that will work against them, particularly in the metros. We know that they will be safe outside of the metros, but in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Tshwane, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni is another one. There will be high contestation in that, and I don't particularly think that they've done enough. There hasn't been, I mean, there was the pledge that they did, but there hasn't been any convincing, you know, thing that they've put forth and said, hey, we are really willing to be just functional, that pure functionality. I would argue they have not.
And it's interesting you say that about Ekurhuleni. I mean, if you look at not so far from Ekurhuleni, we have the Vaal municipality.
Yes.
And in the Vaal municipality, it's been a DA stronghold for years. They don't even have to merge with any party to form a coalition.
Yeah.
But then you have right next to that Mfuleni, which is a very problematic municipality.
Correct.
Could it be that the people of Mfuleni, because of its close proximity to the Vaal, to the Mid-Vaal, maybe they'll swing to the DA to try and see if that party could do better for them?
I mean, it's possible. What we've seen now is that a lot of people are now voting based on also what's happening nationally, the national politics. So if you look at the Democratic Alliance, for instance, and its manifesto, what they're offering is the bare minimum, the functionality that, look, we just want to provide you with service delivery. But what's concerned me the most with the Democratic Alliance is the fact that the Constitution says one of the functionalities of local government is to promote social and economic development. They haven't really spoken to that. And I would argue that the people of Mfuleni would want that. Job creation is actually a critical part of local government, but they don't address it as much. They just say, look, we just want to ensure that you have service delivery. So it will be interesting to see if they swing that side. But we've also seen that a lot of people don't particularly read the manifesto. manifestos.
Now, let's talk about, so we've spoken about the DA and the ANC. There's a third big party in South Africa, the EFF. And my colleague, Rupia Matsena, was actually telling me that according to Ipsos polls that have been done in communities, a lot of the communities and supporters of the EFF are saying they're okay with a coalition because at least somehow they have some power for now until maybe in future years they'll be able to take it up. Is that what we might be seeing?
We might see a lot of that. I think what's interesting, particularly with the EFF, is that what they've been able to do is show influence and governance from an opposition standpoint. We've seen the motions that they've put forth. You know, in the Eastern Cape, they've been able to rename Bizana municipalities to Winnie Madikizela Mandela. They've been able to table motions where they've insourced security guards and other workers. So they've been able to do a lot, and it's documented in their manifesto that, look, there is some work we can actually be able to get done from an opposition standpoint. So I think it might be beneficial for the EFF to still go, not into coalition, because they say they don't do coalitions.
They want outright, yeah.
So they vote with a certain political party, but it isn't a coalition. So the fact that they've been able to influence governance, I think it's good for them. They should take advantage of that, absolutely.
But there's also the interesting part this year. For instance, in the Free State alone, it's 149 independent candidates.
Yes.
And obviously, we're seeing more independent candidates mushrooming. We have Musi Maimane, the leader of 1SA, who's actually having a manifesto for them in Cape Town, which is a DA stronghold. I mean, are these independent candidates going to surprise us in some of these municipalities?
Historically, they have not. There's only been about a 0.27 increase from 2011 to 2016 of the total votes that independents have gotten.
Okay.
There is a difference now with, you know, the media giving them so much attention, social media, you know, and just despondent voters. They're just sick and tired of, you know, party politics, and they want something different. I don't think there will be particularly a lot of ward councillors that are independent. But I think that where they can take advantage is the proportional representation system. Now, you'll remember that municipal councils are made up of two different voting systems. It's the first past the post that makes up 50% of council, and it's the proportional representation that makes up the other 50%. So as movements like the One South Africa movement, they can be able to take advantage of the PR system, still make it to council, but there won't be ward councillors. There'll be those PR councillors, and they can still influence policy. They can influence influence how, you know, governance goes in those particular municipalities, particularly as we've seen with a party like the EFF influencing from the opposition standpoint.
All right. I just want to ask you one quick question. It has to be a quick response from you, but I hope you can do that. This is a very difficult topic, I understand. Political killings.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it was mostly in South Africa. It was sort of becoming a norm that political killings happen in KZN, but they really are spreading sporadically. And of course, it shows. I think it should show South Africans how important local government elections are, and that the money actually filters down to that level of governance.
Yes, it's crucial. And look, to the despondent voter out there, I just want to say, your vote matters, right? Your vote matters, and it's important to make that mark. We are the oversight that exists for these political parties, for the municipalities as a whole. And so we need to, in order to somehow try and curb that, we need to vote for a political party that we know will do the work, and also that's just ethical. I mean, these killings are, it's crazy, and it's not okay. And we need to make a mark to somehow curb it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Mapaseka Muroa, thank you very much for your time. Muroa, excuse me. I keep correcting myself, and I have one of my bosses who's sending me even voice notes to remind me that that's how you pronounce her surname. Excellent analysis from her. Thank you very much for your time.